Thanks everyone for coming. That was our last event on funding fintech, and we had some great opinions during that session. I'm expecting that we're going to have an interesting session today. We're going to talk about accelerating fintech. So we're here again at the Dubai Future Accelerator, which is fantastic to be here, and we're going to have some guests that are in Dubai that are working on bringing the fintech future forward. So that's going to be really exciting. And then we're going to have another segment with JP Nichols, who's a special guest from the States, who's going to talk about this global fintech movement that's taking place today. So hopefully you're here. Next Money, we're a community group, an industry group, looking at fintech, financial services, angel investors, startup. This is a very nascent market for financial services technology and the innovation. And we're hoping by bringing this group together, we can all work together to move forward a little bit faster. So I'm going to ask Paul Smith from the Dubai Future Accelerator, who's the program head. That'll do. To come tell us a little bit about the Dubai Future Accelerator, this fantastic place.
Thank you, Aaron. Good evening, everyone. How are you? Reasonable. It was a bad day. Traffic was poor. I got fired. Good. Thanks for coming along. My name's Paul. I manage the program here. It's brilliant to have Next Money and Emirates NBD in this space. We try to do community events that bring people together around topics, about those topics that shape the future and what happens next. And Dubai being a very forward-looking city, it's something that's very dear to our heart. I wanted to tell you a little bit about DFA before we go on. A lot of you have probably heard of accelerators. They've been around about a decade now. And typically, elsewhere in the world, they will work with very early stage companies, technology companies, usually when they're still 2 or 3 people, often when they're still in a bedroom or a garage, or still figuring out what they are and who they are and what they want to do, when they're still trying to validate problems and build their first product to test whether there's a market or not. This isn't what Dubai Future Accelerators is about. We tend to work with companies that have already validated their market, that have built technology, and what we want to accelerate is their relationship with government. The hope is we can bring transformative technology companies from around the world to Dubai and accelerate the relationship with government. If anyone's worked with government before in a standard relationship, at best it takes months, at worst it takes years, or it never happens at all. From day one, the companies that work with us here, we put them in the same room as the stakeholders in government. And the hope is that together with the resource and expertise and infrastructure of government, and we bring transformative technologies to that, the hope is we can create something greater than the sum of the parts. Not so that Dubai can own that, but so that it's born here and Dubai becomes a hub of innovation and we can take that out to the world. So we're on our second program. The first program ended in December. We had 30 companies join us from around the world, about 100 participants, including the likes of Hyperloop One and Honeywell, Consensus. In those 12 weeks, we signed 19 MOUs and contracts. We collectively created $14 million worth, $14 million, yeah, of pilot projects and trials, which increased the R&D spend of Dubai in 12 weeks by 6%. And that's what we're here to do. We're trying to just pull the future forward faster, make things happen with government, and make this a government that's recognized around the world as one that embraces innovation, not that necessarily owns it, but creates the right environment, this petri dish of testing and experimentation so that big things can happen for the world. So thank you for coming to our auditorium tonight. Thank you for coming to the space. It's great to have you here. Hopefully you'll come along to more events and have a good night. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul. So it's great to be able to do this at the Dubai Future Accelerator, as well as some of the companies that are here. But obviously it requires sponsorship, and we're really happy to have Pedro. I'm going to, just to make sure I get your title right, Pedro Cardoza, Head of Digital Transformation at Emirates NBD.
Great. Good job there, All right. Thanks, everyone. I'll make it short. First of all, thank you for having us here. I guess my message will be simple. First of all, accelerating fintech. Just want to share this image with you. We are very much accelerated already as a bank. We are a 50-year-old bank, but as the banking industry moves normally or typically quite slow, we like to think that we are moving at light speed. And just to give you an example, a tangible example of what we have done in recent times, if you go across the hall and if you see our branch over there and the future lab that we have there, that was done in less than 100 days. So I just want to share this message with you that we are very much open to fintech, to partners, to technology partners, to innovation. And if you have ideas, you have concepts that you would like to explore with us, as a bank, we are very much open to the community, all right? And I guess this is what I can say. We support the community very much. Dubai is a great place for us to that strives for innovation. It's #1 in so many things, and we want to be the #1 in digital banking as well. So we look forward to having your contribution, and please just show up and share with us your ideas, and we look forward to supporting you as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mirza. So I guess, we're going to get to our panel. And, you heard Paul talk about what they do here at the Dubai Future Accelerator. And you heard Pedro talk about it as well. It's all about action. It's all about doing things. And really kind of getting this group together isn't just about talk. It's not just about meeting people, but it's also about connecting and be able to move things forward. So I'd like to introduce our three panelists for our first segment, who are here at the Dubai Future Accelerator, who've accepted challenges from government entities to push Dubai forward in financial services. So Henry Sraigman, he's the head of business development at RSK Labs from Argentina. Please welcome Henry to the stage. So RSK is the first open source smart contract platform with a two-way peg to Bitcoin. Also rewards Bitcoin miners for merge mining and allows them to activate and participate in the smart contract revolution. I met Henry, I learned a lot. So there's a few things in there that I'm sure we'll get to that he'll be happy to help us explore further.
Thank you.
Next up is Fahad Kamr, CEO and founder of MarketIQ, based out of Toronto, Canada. Welcome to Dubai. MarketIQ is a cognitive intelligence platform used by clients across multiple verticals to drive efficiencies, smart data for financial services, and driving better decisions. Probably a simpler way to put it for me. And last up is Waqas Mirza, MD Avanza Solutions. Welcome. Now, what's great about this is while Dubai Future Accelerator reaches out across the world and 1,000 companies submit applications, Waqas' company is here based in Dubai trying to solve problems here. So he's the MD and Chief Marketing Officer of Avanza, where they lead the marketplace by developing delivered forward-looking products, one of which is a blockchain company that is working with smart government Dubai. So, all right. We're going to start here. And Farhad, I'm just going to, obviously the first thing is, you're based in Toronto and, you're in Argentina, and obviously you're funded, you're trying to do startups, and we'll get into, obviously, not the why Dubai question for you. Your question is going to be why Dubai Future Accelerator. But why did Dubai Future Accelerator, why did the UAE market in particular attract you to apply?
So the way we were thinking about this is, just to give you guys a quick background as well, we're headquartered in Toronto, and today we have offices in New York and in the UK. So we started looking at this region to understand what is the shift that is happening within this region. And what we noticed was over the past 8 to 10 months, there's a strong shift specifically within the financial sector as far as customer satisfaction is concerned. We're seeing this move for financial institutions where they're really focused on transforming into customer-centric organizations. And as MarketIQ, as a company, two of the things that we focus on, one is all about providing value back to the customer, and the second is really optimizing workflow and processes for financial institutions. So it felt like a great fit where we're seeing this shift, strong focus for the financial institutions to provide value back to the customer, and the expectation was we could come in here and sort of propel that change, be a part of that change, partner with some of the financial institutions and help accelerate that.
Okay, so you hit the first question I should have asked originally, which is, tell me a little bit about RSK and what you do, and then we'll ask you why you chose to bring it to Dubai.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kamr. I'm the head of business development at RSK, and as you perfectly said, RSK is the first smart contract platform powered by Bitcoin. But what is a smart contract, right? That's the billion-dollar question. What is a smart contract? A smart contract is a way of creating a deal and locking in all the details and putting all that information secure on the blockchain, right? It's a way of making a deal and locking in all the details of that deal using the fairness and the security of the blockchain. We are based in Argentina, as you were saying. We are working to foster financial inclusion. We really believe that smart contract technology can change the reality of 50% of the global population outside financial system. In fact, we are working in Argentina and Latin America. We are working with major banks and companies to bring the unbanked people to the financial system. Before coming to Dubai, trying to address the second question, before coming to Dubai, we were thinking of it as what we have actually found here. This is an innovation hub. They have the leadership, strong leadership, they have the vision, and they have the execution. And all those three things combined are putting Dubai in the centerpiece of the innovation ecosystem worldwide. And this is the right place to be right now for us.
Fantastic. And so, you know, I mean, tell us a little bit about Avanza and how you're related to the fintech industry here in obviously Dubai and around the region.
Yeah, so we are almost a 16-year-old company. We develop transaction processing and payment solutions, mostly for banks around the region in Southeast Asia and GCC and Africa. We specialize in alternate delivery channels. So anything that happens outside the branch, we've got our own products through which we automate these delivery channels. Why we participated in DFA this year is, I would ask the question, why not? I mean, this is an ideal platform for anyone that wants to do something out of the ordinary. We run business on a daily basis. We get in queues of tenders and RFPs and we respond to proposals, and that is business as usual. But when you have something radically different that will take the country or the nation or the city to the next leap and bound, this is the kind of platform you need. The kind of access that we get here to stakeholders, the kind of attention span that we get from people who are at the hem of affairs. They can change things. This is an ideal opportunity. We don't get that in our regular business. Yeah, so that's the reason for joining DFA.
So I mean, and interesting, we've got some bankers right here in the front row. No offense. It's always tough to harass your sponsor. But you've been here in this market for 16 years, like you said, and you're here in the DFA to help accelerate some of these challenges, which, you know, I would presume aren't moving as fast as people would hope. So what challenge was it that you saw that you then decided to apply for, and then how are you solving it or accelerating the solution for that in the market through your technology?
Okay, so I'll take a step back. So in business as usual, when there are projects being offered by banks or other companies, I wouldn't blame them, because when you do something radically different, there's an element of risk that comes with it. And if you have a financial institution that's running, you can't afford to take those risks. With Dubai Future Accelerator, the challenges that are here inherently have a lot of risk in them because they are not ordinary challenges. They are different. The challenge that we were given by Dubai Smart Office is, if you're based in Dubai, you probably come across ePay or mPay all the time. That is the government's payment gateway to collect money on behalf of government entities. They work with roughly 38 government entities. If you're paying a DIVA bill or an RTA fine or bill, you go through ePay and MPay. The recon and settlement plumbing behind this payment gateway needs to be changed. It's old, it has a lot of friction, and Dubai's smart government has a future state vision. They're very clear on what they want payments to look like in this city and country. They want us to fix this bit on blockchain and put that first building block, that enabling block for everything to happen around blockchain. When it comes to real-time payments and instant payments, all of that is going to come. But this recon and settlement had to be fixed first, and it had to be moved onto blockchain because Dubai plans to become a blockchain city by 2020. That is one challenge that we are working on. The other challenge that we are working on, which is complementary to this recon and settlement piece, is to put the enablement infrastructure for real-time payments. We are talking of apps through which you should be able to transfer money to businesses or to your friends within seconds. Apps like WhatsApp, you should just be able to choose a contact, transfer money. If you go buy a car, you shouldn't have to write a check. You should be able to transfer money then and there from mobile apps. So we are providing the infrastructure layer on which these overlay services will be created. So I'm sorry if this was too much detail, but this is what we're doing.
If you don't use MPay or ePay, you're not living in Dubai. So I think it's super relevant. I think that's really interesting when you talk about those types of things, and it really kind of flows into, what's the challenge that you saw? You're sitting in Argentina, you're working with a blockchain infrastructure technology, and you decide to apply for a challenge in Dubai because you see a good fit for smart contracting. Tell me what that challenge is and why you thought it was worth taking that divergence here and what you think you're going to do to help solve it.
Well, as Paul was saying when he opened this session, we found here all the resources to accelerate our businesses. So that is something that is really difficult to find or to build on our own, at our own countries, right? If you want to engage a government in an innovation process, it will take a lot of time. And having here the help, the assistance, the tools, and the contacts of a local company, as DFA is, it's really, really good. We are working with the Department of Economic Development to build a fully automated licensing, issuing, and renewal program on the blockchain. It's really interesting because right now they were telling us how's the system working right now. And if you want to open a business here in Dubai, you need 500 copies of your passport, and you need to provide them really 500. That and 15 other documents, right? And you need to involve different entities, right? Ministry of Interior, DED, and different staff if you need to hire X amount of people, and you need to bring people from abroad. It's really, really hard. So as the vision the ruler has here to put everything on the blockchain by 2020, it's really, really a good opportunity for us to be here and collaborate with the DFA program to build these use cases for DED and having everything on the blockchain.
So the idea is to take the contract effectively between your new entity and the government and create a smart contract and put that on the blockchain. So from, let's say, I want to start a company. I've got all my documents together. Right now, I think the average time is about 6 months, 3 months if you're lucky.
To do what?
To start a company. Correct, right? You'll get laughs. Yeah.
Don't say that.
What's the end state? What's the future state of how long it should take to start a new fintech company in Dubai?
Well, the idea is to have a fully automated platform that you can go online, you can select the type of business you want to open. You will need to fill in the requirements you need to open a business, whether it's a shop at the shopping mall, or it is a restaurant or a bar, or whatever, right? So you have all the details there. You don't have to ping pong within different entities, right? So we have all the information there, and all the stakeholders participating in that decision, they will have access to this same platform, and they will approve or reject this new license, the renewal or the issuing. Everyone will be collaborating on the same platform, so it's really, really, really good.
So it goes from months to days.
Yes.
Ideally.
So, and the interesting thing is you're already here, but you realize that if you're successful, you're going to have to start a company here.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Solving your own problem, I like that. So you're sitting in Toronto, and how did you find the DFA? And I mean, you don't have blockchain, so you can't. Blockchain solves all the world's problems. You just put a little blockchain on it, and it solves it, right? You're smart data. That's so what? 2007?
Old now.
Yeah, no,
It's not a buzzword anymore.
Exactly.
It used to be a buzzword. I could just say we do big data, and everyone would say, "Oh yeah, we get it."
So
Now no one knows about it.
What challenge did you see that you thought that you were ideally suited for in this market, and how are you going about it?
So it's really interesting. Like I said, we're a big data cognitive intelligence company that focuses on the financial sector. And we're here helping the Department of Economic Development optimize business registration and licensing with RSK. So let me tell you guys what we do just a little bit in terms of you guys understand how we optimize workflows. So let's say, for example, customer calls in and says, I would like to increase the limit on my credit card. The process is you send in your tax documents, you send in your bank statements. Processes and workflow, it's 100x. So it's interesting. So when we were looking at this problem within the Department of Economic Development, it really pertained to how is it that you can optimize the registration of a company and then optimize the licensing component of the company. So there are two parts to it. The business registration is getting a name registered and then working with the Department of Economic Development. And then the second element is, depending on what you want to do, maybe you want to open up a restaurant, maybe you want to open up a pastry shop, a dry cleaners, you have to go speak with different departments. So if you want to open up a restaurant, you have to go speak with Dubai municipality. And I haven't opened a restaurant in Dubai, but I hear it's really difficult. So what tends to happen is you walk up to Department of Economic Development and you say, I would like to open a restaurant. And they say, okay, go over to Dubai municipality and they'll tell you what needs to be done. So they don't know. There's not enough transparency. There is not enough knowledge because all the rules at the back are constantly changing. Previously, you needed 3 windows with your fire exit. Today, you need 4 windows. So it's just hard to stay on top of all of it. So what we're doing, along with RSK, is we're building a rules engine. It's a big data analytics platform, which is taking in all the rules. It's allowing all the departments to essentially make changes on the fly. It's incorporating all those rules and pushing it out to various department platforms such that the decision making is optimized. It minimizes the time that is taken to translate and transfer information. And at the same time, all the documentation that needs to be assessed by human beings is being automated by us. So that's what we're doing in a nutshell. I hope that makes sense.
So I find some of the things that are interesting that we've just heard about your challenges and what you're doing. We've got a couple of changing the way that companies start. We're talking about faster instant payments. And especially here in the financial services industry, one of the things everybody knows about, there's a few digital banks that are launching. And the thing is that you can sign up for a digital bank, but you can't actually get the account unless you show up at the branch, which is just counterintuitive to digital, right? And so there's solutions, there's digital identity and things that are out there. I guess one of the things that I find really interesting here, Dubai Future Accelerators, is that the regulators are setting the challenges effectively themselves. So for all of those things that you're talking about to actually be successful in Dubai, regulation needs to change. So what's your experience like here engaging with those regulators on those challenges, knowing that rules have to change for your solutions to be implemented?
Can I? Okay.
Go for it.
So one thing that you have to realize about this program is that it is not federal. It is Dubai-based. And at some level, when you're talking of these things, federal agencies have to get involved. When you talk of instant payments and real-time payments, even if some fintech wants a license over here, it's the central bank that gets involved. And central bank is not Dubai-based, it is federal. The good news is that when Dubai does something, it is followed and adopted. And we see this happening in the industry every day. So for some regulation to take place or for some innovation to take place in the regulation space, this is the first push. So DFA is a very good first push in which if we sell our case and show something tangible to Smart Dubai office, the hope is when their leadership takes it to the Supreme Council and it makes sense, it will get done in the country. And we've seen this happen. So, I mean, regulation that is Dubai-based will get changed. I mean, the entities have all the authority to do it, but there's a lot of federal regulation that is involved here as well, and that will take time.
Interesting. Henry, I mean, how are you seeing your interactions with the regulator in terms of their willingness to think of new rules or asking for your advice around that?
Well, innovation always comes before regulation, right? And that is pretty much what is happening here. There is a lot of innovation, but we need to involve, as Waqas was saying, we need to involve the regulators. We need to build this together. We need to understand what are the pain points, what are the problems we may have, what are the liabilities. We need to involve them, and they are willing to collaborate. That is the most important thing right now. So there is a lot of willing here, and everything is moving so fast, so we need to put all of the stakeholders together to achieve what we have defined first.
So I'll ask you the dangerous question. You ready?
Yeah.
Do they actually listen, or do they just smile and nod?
So I think I want to echo both what Henry and Waqas are saying, and it's really important because so there's some truth to this, right? Like you work with a large bank, you work with a stock exchange. These are large corporations, and change doesn't happen quickly. And this is a government organization which, when I look at it, it's moving faster than any large corporation that I've worked with in the past. And what's interesting to me is even for the problem that we're solving as far as, it's a simple problem, right? You want to expedite registration of a company. If you ask me to do it, to set up a platform which lets you do it right away, I can set up a platform which lets you do that within 5 minutes. It should be a numbered company. You can set it up within 5 minutes. You can do that in Canada. You can do that in New Zealand. You can do that in several other countries. But there are some roadblocks along the way which have been implemented in the system, and there's a reason for it. It's not random. It's not random that today when you register a company in Dubai, you have to go to the court and get it notarized. There's a reason that process exists. But what's really cool is today when we speak with them and we're speaking with the Department of Economic Development, they understand that. They understand that that needs to change, especially if the person who's applying for a company is kosher, right? So they're working with the courts, they're working with all the other departments to make sure that that happens. And I think the way to success is to take small steps to make sure that all those barricades are dropped. And I think we'll get there. Very confident.
So before we open it to questions, I'll give you one last fun one. How many years until we're doing instant payments with your solution in Dubai, every one of us?
2 years, 3 max.
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent. Smart contracts, how long until all licensed businesses are using smart contracts in Dubai?
Well, I think we are very close, but there are far more things to explore out there, as Waqas was saying. RSK's vision, in our personal opinion, right, RSK's vision is fully aligned. RSK's vision of a fair and democratic financial system is fully aligned with what we found here as the most interesting fintech opportunity, right? We are fostering financial inclusion in Latin America and in the world. And we found that that very same social component here in the region is in the form of remittances, because Middle East is one of the top outward remittances hubs in the world. They were one of the top with $120 billion sent in 2015. 71% of those money senders in 2015 are sending money back home, paying huge amounts of fees. 25% of those $120 billion are coming only from the UAE. And the worldwide average fee for sending money is 7.5. With RSK technology, with blockchain technology, you can pay pennies, you can pay cents Right now, people is paying $75 to send 1,000 at their homes. They can pay cents with blockchain from person to person or from bank to bank, not through a global bank. So I think we are building the future. We are very close, but we still need to work all together.
So I'll give you 2 years. How's that? Deal?
Yeah,
All
deal.
right, deal. Be careful of stealing people's business that are sitting in the front row with remittances. I get angry. All right, so smart data, like you said, it's old. It's got to be here sooner. When are we going to have smart, clean data and making quality decisions here in Dubai?
I think if we can't optimize the process by at least 20 to 30% within the next 6 months, we failed. I think it happens within the next 6 months. As long as the Department of Economic Development can push it and we can push it, I think in 6 months we see change.
You're a winner. 6 months. That's it. The lowest one. Is there any questions you'd like to have for any of the gentlemen up here for what they're doing and executing on? I'm going to grab a mic and. Sure.
Hi, my name is Peter. My question for the gentlemen who are doing things with blockchain is, why are you specifically using blockchain? Is it because, oh my God, blockchain, we need to have one of those? Or was it like evaluated that, okay, we have a problem that the blockchain is the best solution for?
Do you want to go? Okay. Yeah, so there's blockchain-related business and use case implementations that we do outside DFA as well. And most of the time, we walk away from discussions and turn down business because we tell our customers, you like blockchain, you've heard of blockchain, this is not a blockchain use case. Don't push it. There are better, smarter ways of doing this. We were sold on the blockchain technology when we picked up this use case. It was qualified by us and the Smart Dubai office. From years of writing code around transaction processing and recon and settlement and fraud prevention and detection, we could clearly see that blockchain inherently has these framework level capabilities which will not have us write all of this extra code. That the second eye concept is inherent in a blockchain framework. So there is some qualification that goes into picking up a use case. And most of the times, like I said, I mean, we tell people, don't do it on blockchain, please.
Well, I want to add something here. Blockchain came to us to change something. Blockchain allowed us to exchange values through the internet. So far, until a couple of years ago, value didn't fly through the internet, right? Because we were allowed to copy a digital file so easily, a file, a music file, a video, a picture, and you will never take a $1 bill picture that I will send you, that I can send also to Waqas, and I can send this an email to Fahad and my sister, right? So blockchain allowed us to exchange value, to send value from one person to another. Before that, value transfer was transferred only through intermediaries. So blockchain is allowing us to make business in a different way.
That was a great question, by the way. I asked them both that earlier. But mine was, is it just easier to get funded when you do blockchain solutions? So they gave polite answers. They didn't say yes.
Hi, my name is Gökhan. I'm from Emirates MBD. One thing that I see here is that everything is centrally driven. As far as I know, I'm not a blockchain expert, but in blockchain, we talk about distributed agents, validators, and all that. Who are these other actors, or who are going to be these other actors, or will this remain totally government-led?
Okay, in our particular use case, you are one of the actors, and Naimish will second us, because in our particular use case, since Dubai Smart Office is collecting funds from issuers and passing them on to those 38 government entities, which eventually will grow into many more commercial entities as well. So all of these entities will have to get on board. It is not a viable use case if the box or our implementation is only installed at Smart Dubai Office. So all the entire ecosystem will come in place, and these actors will join gradually while the existing system phases out and the new system comes in. So the pilot that actually we're not doing an isolated implementation of our project. At one end, it is connected with Emirates NBD. it is going to be connected with Emirates NBD, and on the other, it's going to be connected with Dubai Customs. So we'll actually pump real-time transactions from Dubai Customs, you know, and the customer will be debited from Emirates NBD. So that's our pilot. So there are multiple parties involved.
You'll be signing a smart contract right after this.
Hi, from Emirates NBD again.
All right.
Hey. Do you see any use case of blockchain in procurement?
Okay, I'll take that.
Yeah, I was going to say that. That was purely directed to you.
Well, the idea behind the blockchain is decentralization and transparency. So having a procurement platform on the blockchain can allow us to make it, to have a transparent tenders, right? Offering biddings, right? For any kind of proposal they may find online on this procurement platform, right? They will allow, that platform will allow them to submit the proposals and nobody will be looking into them prior to the submission date. So what might happen in other places, the people taking decisions whether to go with one tender or with another, they may receive some incentives to go with one vendor and not to the other one. So you could have a very transparent procurement platform, right? With clearly submission date, with clearly end and closing dates, and people signing when they submit the proposal. So we have a timestamp when the submission was provided and when it was open. So everything is recorded on the blockchain, and we rely on the fairness and security of it.
So we have softwares already which is providing the same service.
Yes, but
We have. I'm talking from Emirates NBD point of view.
maybe that's not a problem here in the region, but you may find that problem of not having that kind of transparency in any other governments.
I'm talking more of, say for example, supplier registration, supplier relationship management. For example, I'm from the operations side, yeah? So every year we need to update the trade licenses for my suppliers, and I have around 5,000 plus suppliers. Just that's a rough figure. And how will I know whether the supplier is legit or not?
That's so let me just kind of, because we missed on the microphone, but effectively it sounds, this is a really interesting one. So you're going to license people through smart contracts here in Dubai. The supply chain requires Emirates NBD to get that trade license in order for them to do business with them. How can someone that's already registered through a smart contract through the government make it so that they don't have to provide it through Emirates NBD, that effectively it's known that they're a licensed entity?
Well, you can have that when you have that software you were saying, you rely on the trust the vendor is providing you, right? So let's suppose that is not a procurement platform and there is a voting system at national election level, right? You are trusting your national election to a provider, to a vendor, and you don't know how many people that really voted, how many for whom they voted. The same thing here happens when you rely on the trust of one vendor. So we can rely the decentralized blockchain, because if you want to hack the system, you will need a lot of computer powering to hack all the system. You will need to go against 10 million computers in the world. So that's kind of difficult.
I don't know about you, but like not our system, but other systems. It's just a picture, right? Who checks that? Someone, I hope. Well, we're going to have to skip on. I apologize. There's a bunch of other questions, but we're going to definitely have a session afterwards where you get to meet the three gentlemen. So I want to thank you guys for insightful and bringing Dubai forward so quickly. 2 years, 6 months. We'll be watching you.
Sorry.
Yeah, go.
one important brand of fintech wholesale houses. We strongly encourage closer cooperation between startups and financial institutions.
I love the fintech finals. This is so anticipated. It's not funny.
We wouldn't bug somebody for cash anymore. I think that's wow.
It's probably one of the most advanced mobile adoption in China, where most of the customers today do everything on mobile. I can use my mobile for a week without touching my wallet, and I can pay everything online.
Our role in networking has been outstanding.
People are trading based on mood. This is the new option market. We don't have the option to pull an Airbnb and pull an Uber and start something in our garage. In financial services, you will go to jail.
Thank you very much to Startup HK as well as NextMoney. We're really pleased to be here. My name is Sang Lee, and I'm the CEO and founder of Darkman.
This event is a great opportunity to get insight over some of the more interesting growth stage startups, both regionally and globally.
We provide affordable and accessible digital financial services for the emerging middle class.
We are MENA. We are a Swedish microinsurance company. We use mobile technology to bring affordable microinsurance and health products to emerging market consumers.
I couldn't be happier. There's more opportunity now more than ever for a startup, even with limited resources, to do something significant and impactful. Congratulations.
So, you know, we're here together in Dubai, and Next Money is obviously a global organization, and fintech is a global movement. We're lucky to have JP Nichols. I'd like to come up and join us. He was the MEFTech keynote, and he's also the chairman of Next Money globally, as well as being a bank innovator, a serial banker, and I'll let him introduce himself further. But he's going to tell us a little bit about the global fintech movement.
Great. Well, thanks for having me here. How many people work for a startup? A few of you. Of your startups, how many are selling or hope to sell to banks or financial institutions? A few of you, okay. How many people work for financial institutions? Okay, I'll go slower. Yeah. I'm a recovering banker myself. I spent 20 years helping to grow a bank from about $6 billion to about $400 billion in the US. For the last 5 years, I've been at the intersection of banks and fintechs. I launched something in the US called the Bank Innovators Council, and Next Money, you may know, used to be called Next Bank. I got to know Rob Finley, the founder who you saw there on the screen, and we put our organizations together and renamed it Next Money, and I'm really glad to be here in Dubai, so thanks for having me. So there's me, I just told you that already. So let's take a step back and kind of think about what this is. You're here to plan for success, maybe to celebrate some success. And here's the thing, success is typically a pretty bad teacher. All the things that got us to this stage is not necessarily the things that will take us to the next stage. So we've got to think about what will be different and what's new and how do we need to change based on all of these things that are happening that aren't the same as what it was in the past. During most of my career and even before that, I know people whose father and grandfather were bankers, and we had some ups and downs, but they were kind of secular. But for the most part, we had rising asset prices, falling interest rates, and an era of deregulation. Then came 2008. We think about it as the global financial crisis, but also think about the technologies that were emerging from that period to now. So really we're talking about a 10-year period where things have changed, and unfortunately most of us in the industry have not changed a lot, or at least enough. We've been focused on preventing this crisis that happened from happening again, which is a good thing. We don't want another one of those. We'll probably have something like it. I hope not as deep. But all of the things that we looked at were how do we prevent that from happening again, right? We looked at the past instead of looking at the future. And the technology has really changed things. Chris Skinner was here. Many of you know him. Read his blog. He keynoted at the event as well. And he talks about this being a global revolution where everybody's connected. And if you think about it a little bit more detail inside our industry, and we could go across every one of these Porter's 5 forces, but the thing I think is really new is this threat of substitution. That wasn't something we ever had to deal with before, and certainly our grandfathers and fathers and generations before. We competed with one another, and we looked at our kind of relative strengths and weaknesses across other similar financial institutions who do pretty much the same thing, same kind of products and services, same kind of pricing, same kind of policies and procedures. And suddenly now, in the last few years, we have this threat of substitution. It's possible to live your entire financial life without a primary relationship with a licensed traditional financial institution. Right? We can have a collection of apps that really replace what used to be a bank relationship. And your strategy works until it doesn't. So this person here says, wouldn't have aimed this high ever? Well, maybe a little higher might have been better. This was Blockbuster in 2010. And the thing about Blockbuster, it's easy to pick on them now and use them as a punchline, but they were a really fantastic company. You think about what the video industry was like prior to Blockbuster, and you walked into a neighborhood shop like this. They had a couple of hundred originally videotapes before it was even DVDs. Your first choice was gone, your second choice was gone, you're down to, you wanted Beverly Hills Cop and you got Camp Beverly Hills instead. This was based on location, location, location. And Blockbuster executed that business model better than everybody else. They did it more efficiently, they had better locations, they had more stocked stores, they were using barcodes to move inventory around. So they took that business model, executed it better than everybody else. But what happened when Netflix came around? They didn't beat them at their own game, they changed the game. And think about Netflix from day one and what that first board meeting must have been like. Oh, you mail a DVD to you and then you mail it back and you get another one? Oh, our customers wouldn't want that. We've got locations here in every neighborhood. And you think about that in financial services, we still say a lot of that about, our branches and our technology and all that stuff. And I'm not one of these people that's going to tell you branches are going away, but I think they're changing a lot. And I like some of the things you're working on already, looking at the way the branches are changing, the way people are interacting those, and we probably need fewer. But more importantly, think more broadly about the business model. And again, it wasn't about beating them at their own game, it was about changing the game. 2014, just like every year before I had ever seen a chart like this, said something like this. If you asked customers how to define convenience in banking, the #1 answer was branches near me. In 2015, we hit a tipping point. Thank you. It wasn't the first answer any longer, it wasn't even the second answer. It dropped to #3. Now the #1 answer is leading online mobile offering. So it wasn't about the branch location, location, location any longer. I think we hit a tipping point a year and a half ago already. Now we shouldn't be surprised. Now this is in the US, smartphone penetration hit 81% last year. You're higher than that in this region. We're higher in Southeast Asia. We're higher in Scandinavia and most parts. It's one of the many things we lag in our world. But we should have seen this coming. And we should have seen it coming here because also in 2015 we hit a similar tipping point where transactions taking place on mobile exceeded those taking place in the branch. So you look at Bank of America, one of the largest banks in the US, they announced in their fourth quarter earnings report some detail about their mobile banking. Now this is every quarter. They're adding 500,000 to 1 million users every single quarter. And the percentage of transactions are climbing every single quarter, 21 million active users. So what this means is the weekly mobile interactions are actually 12 times the interactions that are happening in the branch. As Jim Roos likes to say, they'll keep talking about the branches as long as you don't give them a good enough service on the mobile. So we got to think about that experience a lot differently than than we did in the past. So we talk about disruption, and I think about disruption the way William Gibson talked about the future. It's already here. It's just not widely distributed yet. People say, well, we're not being disrupted. We still have all of these banks, and we still have all of these branches. Well, I think it depends kind of where you look. And I like to quote Bill Gates. We always overestimate the change that will happen in the next 2 years and underestimate what will happen in the next 10. So kind of to your question about the panel, right? How do we think about some of these things? I mean, amazing things you guys are working on here. But the key is to not let yourself be lulled into inaction. And to some degree, it depends on when you start counting that 10 years too. You look at a 10-year period here, the top publicly traded companies by market cap, not a lot of change, a little bit of a changing of the guard from Microsoft to Apple here. But in 2011, Mark Andreessen wrote a pretty famous op-ed in the Wall Street Journal where he said, software is eating the world. Maybe it didn't seem like it just yet, but it didn't even take 5 years, 10 years. It took 5 years. By 2016, all 5 companies were technology companies. And the banks that are going to make it in the future are thinking themselves as technology companies. So disruption, and I'd even take the flip side of that, which is innovation, it also kind of depends where you look. Most of what's happened over the past 10 years has really been at the experience level. Put a tablet in the hands of an advisor, add a digital app, put a digital wrapper around your existing processes and so on. And it's important to do that, and we still have a lot of financial institutions that haven't done enough here yet. But I think we're really starting to get interesting based on what's happened the last couple of years. A layer below this, we call the tactical level, so it's not just the digital wrapper, it's the apps and the APIs and the straight-through processing and all of the re-engineering of the processes that go underneath this that really begin to create not only better experiences for the customers, but much more efficient operations for the financial institutions. And we go even a layer deeper in some of the things you guys are talking about, are really at the strategic level. And things like blockchain, I think, can fundamentally not only change the way we do things, but the business model. And you think about financial institutions, we were used to being in the middle. We were essentially gatekeepers. If you wanted to borrow money or save money or invest money or move money, you came through us. We took a little toll. And technologies like blockchain and other distributed ledger technologies and smart contracts and all that really changed that game. So we're still in the pretty early stages of that. So my message to financial institutions is you don't necessarily have to be out on the cutting edge, but you do have to close the gap. If you don't keep up with this, what happens is you have this gap that you're always playing catch up. And if you want to get to those more interesting kind of tactical and strategic changes, you've got to be able to close the gap on the experience level first. You look at why customers like fintech. There was a survey done last year about 40,000 consumers worldwide, about 900 bankers, and they asked them, and you can see the differences in the answers. And on the left-hand side, they were kind of pretty similar. As we got over here, the differences started to really stick out. This is good service or experience, and this is quick turnaround, faster service. Pretty big gap between what the customers say is important or what they like from fintechs to what the bankers say. So we're not always even on the same page. And this $40 billion that's been invested in fintech, you've seen all the charts. Accenture puts out the one I usually use in just about every presentation. And we always think about stories like the Ikram and Andrew, the 2 young kids who started Venmo, and now that's driving some of the best quarters that PayPal has ever seen. Well, those stories are rare, few and far between, as much as we love those stories. And we think about that, and a lot of bankers go, well, that's, how many of those are we going to have, right? Probably not that many. But think about how fintech has enabled really large, well-funded technology players such as Google and Facebook, Amazon. They're in financial services already. They're in the payments business. They're in the merchant service business. They're increasingly taking off slices of the business that used to belong to the financial services industry. And the other thing I think people really miss is the fintech arms race. the largest and best funded institutions, the question of build, buy, rent, for them the answer is yes. And we're investing in accelerators and incubators like these kinds of programs all around the world. And so this is what's driving that gap that we talked about that the other financial institutions have to pay attention to and close down. All right, so 3 quick things I'm going to give you that I think are important to thrive in this era of digital disruption. And the first is the notion it doesn't work anymore. The great Prussian military strategist von Moltke says, no battle plan survives contact with the enemy. I think Mike Tyson says it even a little bit more succinctly. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So instead of thinking we can plan it all out and then we'll switch to execution mode, and guys like Mark back there know how to execute, right? That's not enough anymore. Instead, we have to think about test and learn. Now, if anybody ever sits down at a poker table, you wouldn't push in all of your chips to the center and say, deal me some cards, I sure hope there's some good ones. Right? You'd bet the absolute minimum ante, see how the cards go. If the cards are good, you'll bet more. If they're bad, you'll fold and wait for the next hand. Why don't we do this in our own boardrooms? Right? We think that if we get the smartest people around the boardroom table, we'll get it all figured out, and we know we're putting BS numbers inside all the spreadsheets. We're making stuff up because we don't know. The bigger change we're trying to make, the less we know. How are we going to forecast what these things look like? So how do we make small bets and test and learn? We should be doing what I call fast, iterative, responsive experiments. I have a company called the Fintech Forge, and we call that we love that as an acronym. We call it the FIRE process. It's kind of the best of agile methodologies like Lean Six Sigma and Scrum, but in a way that works in a highly regulated environment. And what I think this is really the power of 1 Sigma. 6 Sigma is awesome, and we love that in our financial institutions for the known knowns. But sometimes we need to be at 1 Sigma. We don't know, but we have a pretty good idea this is going to work. Let's test it and see what happens. Well, the number 2 thing we have to do is we have to be willing to partner. I think very few financial institutions globally are going to be true product innovation leaders. Very few. Most are going to partner. We don't have to invent it all in-house. It's actually good news. Jamie Dimon, chairman of JP Morgan Chase, one of the largest banks in the world, if he's okay partnering with people, I think we all should be. And here's the advantage that financial institutions still have. Despite all the things we've done to erode the trust, they still trust us. Like 96% say they trust their financial institution completely or somewhat at least. What number do you think this is for fintechs? Anybody have a guess? Yes, 40,000. Lower? How much lower do you think? 20%. Yeah, I usually hear 20 to 30%. It's 90. They've made a lot of gain that we don't see. Right? Customers trust their fintech. Then when we ask customers, would you be willing to refer your bank to friends or family? About half said yes, and pushing on 2/3 said they would refer their fintech. So I'm usually in rooms full of bankers, and I ask if they partner. They go, oh yeah, we partner. We have a procurement department and a couple tech companies. We have some tech vendors. That's not what we're talking about here. Right? This idea of asking 2 guys in a garage to indemnify your multi-billion-dollar bank, right, and sign 2 inches worth of contracts for this. You guys are on different planets, right? You don't even speak the same language sometimes. Yes, the technology has to work, and I'm in these meetings where the whole meeting is about we have to map this table over there, we got to make sure tab A fits into slot B, and all of those things are important. That's table stakes, though. It's necessary, but insufficient. You have to make sure that the culture, the cost, and the compliance works. And particularly for fintechs who aren't used to working in a highly regulated environment, it's really another world for them too, because this move fast and break things ethos of Silicon Valley doesn't work in a highly regulated environment like financial institutions. All right, last thing is you have to treat innovation as an act of leadership. I consider all of you leaders, and I believe that one of the most important jobs in your role as a leader is the allocation of resources. Financial resources, human resources, managerial time and attention. This stuff doesn't just happen. You make it happen. And we need your leadership. Most financial institutions don't have a chief innovation officer. They have what I like to call an "and-I." Somebody with "and innovation" tacked onto their job title, maybe scrawled in pencil, or maybe just kind of implicit. Support your local "and-I." They need help managing, and we're really good at executing. We're really good at that, but we've been executing the same thing for a couple hundred years now, and I think we're really beginning to change, so we have to learn some new skills if we want to be successful in the future. In some ways, it's as simple as Peter Drucker. Management is doing things right, but leadership is doing the right things. All right. So you have a couple decisions to make here. You have to decide, first of all, if you buy this whole argument I gave you that we're in a new landscape now, or maybe you just think the old world order prevails after all. And then you have to decide, do you want to do something about it or not? So you could just double down on existing strategies. You could hope this is all just a temporary fad and it'll go away. Or you can just give up and give way to the fintech innovators and hunker down on your little whittled away business. Or you can really engage and embrace what's going on and engage with the partners. Because I'll tell you this, and I'll leave this as my final thought. If you want to predict the future, the best way is to create it. So, thank you very much. Now, I'll tell you, as Aaron said, I spoke yesterday at the MEFTEC conference in Abu Dhabi, and so I've recycled this. Barbara, you've heard this twice now. Did it get any better, or was it just as bad this time? Yeah, okay. So feel free to hang on to their tag. I loaded this up. I didn't reload it for Next Money, but if you want the slides, I've got it on my website. So thanks.
Cool.
So.
No, I think, I mean, fantastic, right? And I'm sure that you're on this big stage at MEFTEC, and it wasn't quite the sentiment.
There are more people here than there were there.
Yeah. And that's a different discussion for later. But did you get grilled?
A little. Yeah, Chris Skinner grilled me, but I'm happy to get more here.
Should we get some is there any questions that we'd like to ask here now, or we can do it in person later? There we go. Here, I'll take one of. You got it? Okay, thanks.
Hi, I'm Marie from ADCB, Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank. What is the best way to partner then with the fintech as a bank?
Well, I think the first thing is having real clarity on what problem you're trying to solve. It's the same advice I know that we give the startups here, right? What problem are you trying to solve? And I think that's even harder for banks sometimes because you have so much existing business going on and thinking about all these different things. We did a workshop recently with a handful of banks, and we had them come in, teams of people, and they brought in 14 ideas. The first one, at this extreme, was, we know what you need to do. Just put a print screen, or print button on this screen because our customers want this data and we don't have an easy way to extract it. Way down the other end, the CIO of a bank came in and said, we want to talk about putting everything in the cloud on virtual machines because we want to manage it that way. And we actually walked them through our FIRE process and kind of narrowed it down and really focused on problem definition more than they wanted. They thought they knew what the problem was walking in, but after we spent about a full day going through that, by the time they're done, we narrowed it down to 4 ideas, and we're doing this on behalf of one of the big core processors who said they'd commit to 1. They actually committed to all 4 and working on those. So I'd say be really, really clear about the problem that you want to solve with some depth. And bring in and focus on the test and learn, right? Don't focus on building the contract and writing out all the user requirements and getting this done, and then 18 to 24 months later, you'll know if it worked. Focus on what is the minimum viable product and what is the hypothesis you're testing, and get to it as quickly as you can. Get it into your customers' hands as quickly as possible.
I'm going to ask you kind of a loaded question because here, this is your first time to Dubai.
Yep. First time.
And here you are at the Dubai Future Accelerator, which is a brand new thing as of last September. Have you ever seen anything like this with government entities in the world?
Not to my knowledge with government entities. I think I spent a little bit of time in Hong Kong and Singapore and the UK, and I think they're doing a pretty good job. We do a horrible job of this in the US because we're so fractured and we have all these things going on. I don't know, maybe after President Trump gets done with our federal government, we'll all fit in a room about this size. I don't know. But
I'm staying here.
I think it's interesting what you guys are doing here, and I think about some of the smart cities technology and the things that are happening here. And anytime financial services involved, you've got to have government involvement. So kudos to what you're doing here. I think this is terrific.
Cool.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. My name is Wael, and my question for you is that, so financial services is a heavily regulated industry, and I'm talking about jurisdictions. So do you see, I mean, as opposed to like technology companies like IBM and, right? Like big companies that can invade the world, do you think something like that can happen to fintech? Like,
yeah, I think technologies like blockchain are probably the most likely to do that because, again, if you think about different jurisdictions and that notion I talked about before where we were all gatekeepers and we all had our own ledgers, and if I wanted to transfer you money, I debited my ledger and credited yours, and we all had to agree on the amount and the amount of the payment and that it was finished and all that kind of stuff. And suddenly, if we have a single trusted source of the data on something like a blockchain or some distributed ledger, I think you look at trade finance and smart contracts facilitating all the massive paperwork that goes back and forth. So I think we're not there yet, but I think in the next 10 years, as Bill Gates says, we might see a lot more kind of virtual borders drop. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Imran from National Bank of Abu Dhabi, here in Dubai. My question is that how different, it sounds very much in terms of its characteristics, a lot of common features with the clearing house functions in the US. So except that it's going to be digital, and how similar would it be augmented clearing house?
So is your question kind of built around a blockchain kind of thing?
Yeah.
You should have asked these guys. These guys know about 20 times more about blockchain than I do. I'll tell you in the US, it's one of the things, we talked about this yesterday actually at MEFTech, if you look at SWIFT and Ripple, are you familiar with Ripple as a technology? I mean, I think that's going to be massively disruptive. And SWIFT all of a sudden in the last about year and a half have said, we want almost all of our innovation activities to be around blockchain. The automated clearinghouse, you know, we still write, I think we write 2/3 of the paper checks in the world in America. So we still have pretty antiquated clearing systems and so on there. They've been talking about this faster payments project for about the past 5 years, and they haven't gotten anywhere out of there yet. So again, I think some of the faster moving countries are going to move a lot quicker on some of these things. But yeah, if you've got detailed blockchain questions, you've got some fantastic people here. And I'm not one of them, so thanks.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Jan from Emirates MBD.
Hi.
One question, you keep saying test and try to work like the startups, I guess. We had a call at a little while ago with someone who had worked at one of the unicorns, one of the big brands in the startups. And we were asking them, how does such a company do innovation? How does it do this testing and breaking? And one of the really mind-boggling things that they said is that you just do it, you set up a team, and that there's no budget. And he said this kind of approach doesn't optimize for cost. And he sort of said it with a smirk.
Yeah.
Which means it's really expensive. Yeah. How are institutions such as banks, how do you imagine institutions such as banks, how should they adopt this kind of an approach? What kind of changes are required in order to be able to work like that? And how do you approach that kind of a problem?
Okay, and who was it that described what kind of company would this?
This is one of the media companies.
A media
.coms,
company.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, very different, right, than a bank.
But they still, they still deliver a service to their customer. There's an app that a lot of the people in this room probably have.
Sure. I mean, it's the classic innovator's dilemma. Why should we take any of our, we have real live customers paying real live revenue, buying real live products today. Why should we divert any of that towards something that's new and unproven? But yet if we don't, we could be run completely out of business, right? We could play the blockbuster story here. So I see three kinds of financial institutions: leaders, learners, and laggards. The leaders have been doing this for a while, And I'll admit that I think for some of the largest global financial institutions, there's a fair amount of what I call innovation theater to that. And there's some marketing value to say, hey, we're working on all these things. But I think a lot of those institutions are struggling to drop that to their bottom line. I tend to work with kind of the learners, those that know they need to do something, but they're not sure what to do. And I think kind of this next wave of innovation that's coming out is a little bit more practical and focused on not just things that'll garner great headlines, but things that will really come to the bottom line faster. But the other thing I would add to that is this test and learn environment, when done right, is actually cheaper. I'll give you an example. There was a bank we were working with that was ready to sign a $13 million check for a contract. They would have no idea whether there was any benefit at all for about 18 months. And we said, well, hold on. Why don't let's get really clear about why you're implementing this technology, what problems you're trying to solve. Could we build some small tests on that? And when the CFO said, you mean I could write maybe a $500,000 check today? We said, yeah, and if these things aren't answered, we're going to go back and figure out something else. If they are, maybe you write another $1 million at that point. And if you think about that kind of approach to this, it actually is less risky and it's actually cheaper, but it's fundamentally different than the way we've run the business for a couple hundred years.
Okay, last time we were here, we said one last question. It had to be a really good one. Zahir Koja is our moderator there. So it has to be a really good one. You've been raising your hand like 3 times. So no pressure whatsoever. The last question of the night.
My name's Heather Henya, and I'm active in the startup and angel investing space. Where do you see, when we talk about fintech, it's fairly broad. Where do you see the greatest opportunity for disruption, payments, digital currency, crowdfunding, access to capital, all those spaces, and in which part of the world, given the regulatory challenges?
Yeah, so
and hopefully that was good enough.
Again, a lot of what we've seen so far has been kind of on the edges around the experience and a lot in payments. We've seen an awful lot in payments. At the same time, we've seen a lot in lending, a lot of marketplace kind of companies and a lot of partnerships. I showed Jamie Dimon up there. They've partnered with On Deck and a couple of the others. I think we're still in the very early stages of that. I think some of the marketplace lenders are going to go through some tough times, but it doesn't matter because the genie's already out of the bottle, right? When I have banks tell me we're excited, we got our underwriting down to 7 days, and I said, well, I just got an ad, served on my Facebook for cabbage. It said 7 minutes, right? So I think the fundamental business that banks are in is in the net spread business of taking in deposits and making loans. So I think there's a lot more to go there, and we haven't even touched the commercial side yet. I'm getting very interested in B2B or SMEs, small to medium enterprises, because I think just like smartphones, just like tablets, just like PCs, consumers are bringing those into the boardroom, and the expectations of those, think of the medium-sized company CEO that spends weekend watching whatever they want on Netflix, taking an Uber and ordering things on Amazon, then they try to interact with a bank, and there's a big gap there. And then at the end of the, so I'm giving you like 9 things, so I will be right? One of these predictions will come true. Fundamentally, blockchain, I know it's at the top of the hype curve right now, but there's a reason for that, because over the long run, as I said, it will fundamentally change business models. So I think that has an opportunity to be really disruptive, but I still think we got a long way to go. And I didn't even talk about wealth management and some of the other things yet. So there's a lot of opportunity in the space, in my opinion. So,
thanks. Okay. I want to say thanks to JP for all the insights.
Yeah,
thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for our panelists, Fahad, Henry, and Waqas, for the insights that they shared, and obviously the work that they're doing here in Dubai. Thanks to our live streaming partner, OVN, so the people that are stuck on Sheikh Zayed Road at the other end can actually see and participate in this. And obviously thanks to Emirates NBD for all their help, and the guys on the Next Money team that volunteered to make this happen. So. Thanks for coming, everyone. We'll have another event probably in early April that we'll announce, and feel free to chat, interact, and mingle. Thanks for coming. Thanks.